Alright, what we're going to draw today is a 3D thread, so that if you need to print on a 3D printer a thread to thread into a tapped hole, then you can do that. First thing I need to do is know a little bit about thread geometry, and I've looked it up online and have some charts and some pictures to show you. The first one shows the major and the minor diameter of the thread. So the outside diameter overall is the major, the inside of the thread is the minor diameter. And so you can look up charts based on which size thread you're looking for. In this instance, I'm going to draw a 1-inch bolt, 8 threads per inch. And so I looked up the information on that. My major diameter for that is 1 inch, and my minor diameter is 0.8466. The next thing you need to know is have access to a tap drill chart, which I have here, and we'll use this when we're drilling the hole to tap to thread the bolt into. Alright, back to Key Creator. I'm going to start this in my front view, so display view, front. I start 99% of my drawings with just placing horizontal and vertical lines. The next thing I'm going to do is offset my lines half the distance, half the diameter, so the radius of my major and minor diameters. So I'm going to go create line, parallel distance. I let the program do the math for me. It eliminates some user error. So parallel distance, 1 divided by 2 is 0.5. Then back up. My minor diameter was 0.8466 divided by 2. So now this line is going to represent the outside of my thread, and this will represent the inside of my thread. The bolt I'm going to use and make here is a 1-inch 8 threads per inch, so UNC, a coarse thread bolt. And so my 8 threads per inch, I can figure out how many threads overall and what the pitch is, and I'll need to know that later when I revolve it around. So I need to make 1 thread, so 8 threads per inch. Do a line, parallel distance again. In 1 inch, I have 8 threads, so 1 divided by 8, 0.125, eighth of an inch. So now in here, I'm going to draw 1 thread. But what I want to do is I want to have a little bit of a flat in between my threads and a flat on the end. So what I want to do is I'm going to offset each of these lines 5 thousandths. So it gives me about a 10 thousandths flat between threads. .005. I'm going to trim this out so that I can just grab the center point. Create a line string from the intersection of here and here to the middle and back to the intersection. Alright, the last thing I gotta do is I gotta figure out my 10 thousandths flat on here, so I'm just gonna grab a line, horizontal line, drop it on the midpoint, offset it 5 thousandths each way. That will give me my flat. I'm just going to connect those points. Okay, just got to trim this up, and that's good to go. Trim first. That's all I'm going to save, get rid of the rest of this stuff. I kept these 2 lines for a reason. The next thing I'm going to do is draw from my top view down a cylinder to add these threads to when I revolve it. So, construction plane into the top view. Create circle, diameter, my inside minor diameter was 0.8466, so that's the one to use here. 0.8466 at the intersection, this line, that line. I'm going to extrude my cylinder up 2 inches and then revolve my thread around it. Create. Extrude profile 2 inches. Accept. Alright, now again, I'm going to do a helix. My pitch is 0.125 an eighth because it's 1 inch, 8 threads, so dividing 1 by 8 I get 125. So it wants to know my starting point, which is it's the center of the base of my cylinder, and the end point is the center of the top of the cylinder. It's like profile geometry. What I want to make a helix out of is the thread here. So select a chain. I'm going to go to my front construction plane so I can just grab that chain. Say accept. And there you have it. My thread. 10 thousandths flats between and 10 thousandths flats on the edge of the thread. Now what I want to do is unite the two of them. Modify Boolean, unite. So one piece now. Alright, I'm going to repeat that same steps for another thread, but it's going to be a little bit larger, because what I want to do is subtract the next set of threads from a solid body, and that would be my tapped hole. So I'm going to go back to my tap drill chart to see what size hole I would drill to tap a 1 inch 8. So 1 inch 8, and I'm looking at my material up here. I'm using this for plastic, so my decimal equivalent is 0.875, so a 7/8 hole. So I'm going to use my same line here. Make it line parallel. 0.875 divided by 2. Alright, now I'm just going to copy this profile geometry, bring it, drop it over here, and then add my cylinder, revolve it around. So to copy this geometry, I'm going to change my color. Create a line string. And entity. Leave it a little long there so I have a base position. Now I'm going to cut the chain. Just single line for this. Line. So my base position was the bottom, and now I'm going to paste it at the intersection of this line and that line. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is add my cylinder. So this time it's a 0.875 cylinder. Construction plane to the top, Drop it at the intersection. There and there. Extrude it up 2 inches. And now I'm going to trim this little red line so I don't have a problem revolving that. Modify trim first. Now I'm going to pick my helix, same pitch, center there, center there, profile geometry, construction plane in the front. Okay. So now unite those. So we have one entity, 2 entities. The last thing I'm going to do is make a primitive solid, subtract my larger of the threads from it, add my bolt, and then I'll cut it so you can see the clearances. So create primitive solid. I'm going to create a 4x4 by 1.5 inches tall block. I'll drop it in the top view. What I'm going to do is trim these to 1.5 inches because we have the tops here. This thread usually tapers, so I'm going to trim that so it looks more like a typical bolt. Let's create line. Okay, now I'm going to offset this line 1.5 inches, trim my solids to the line. Construction plane back in the front. Parallel distance 1.5 inches. Okay, let's try this again with my construction plane and my display view in the correct place. Okay, so randomly place that line, create a line, parallel 1.5 inches. Now I can go to modify trim each of these to the line. Alright, clean up some of these stray lines. I'm going to add a diagonal line to my primitive solid so I can find the center of that easy. And I'm going to drop generic move. Grab center mid, drop that on the midpoint of the line. Boolean, subtract, accept. So now I have a threaded hole. Now I'm going to take this, insert it. Same command, center mid. Drop it on the center mid. From the top down. I'm going to drop a line. Alright, the last thing to do on this is to take and cut the solids to the line so we can take a look at it and see how much clearance we have overall. Alright, so we'll modify trim first, solid to the line. Help if I put my construction plane in the top. And now the bolt to the line. Delete my diagonal line. Alright, if we get in there and look, we have a fair amount of clearance. So that should thread in no problem. The resolution on the 3D printer that we have is fairly good, so I'm sure that will work. I want to check the measurement on the clearance just to make sure that if we have 10,000 some, we're good to go. Go back to my front view, construction plane, back in my front, detail. And at 14 thousandths, it should be more than enough. Great, thanks for watching.